Hello, my name is Salty, and I am a motorcycle addict. Welcome to tonight's meeting of degenerates and a few honorable, uncorrupted souls, but that is still up for debate and would make this political. So let's get on with a 56th episode of Live at 5 on this. Time to grab the clutch and shift into third gear, twist the throttle, and let's get into tonight's episode. Within the Badger set, a different type of hole. That being said, in this off season, please remember those riders suffering through winter with a PMS, park motorcycle syndrome. Our bikes suffer too. Still trying to convince my wife motorcycles are a good financial investment. She doesn't agree, but I'm willing to trade one basket case for another. Maybe you'll have better luck with her than I do. Let's all sit back, talk about motorcycles and lifestyles. It's all about the adventure. Most of all, remember, chopping ain't easy, and if I wanted to ride something easy, I would have called your girlfriend. Without further ado, let's get on to tonight's show. Tonight's special guest edition of Salty Badger's Chopper Talk Tales from the Road is coming to you live through StreamYard on YouTube from the Badger set and streaming to you on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. So my kids have no excuse to miss an episode unless, of course, I just plain bore them. And, of course, that's probably the way it is, and I understand. So without further ado, we're going to roll that intro. Salty Badger arriving. Please welcome tonight's special guest from Gatti's Garage. I have conjured up some questions to ask him that I'll let him tell us a bit about himself, his shop, and things to come. So, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, man, I'm here.
All right. First question I have for you is, when was your first memorable motorcycle experience?
Oh, geez. Probably when I was maybe 6 years old. My grandparents had like a, country house or a woods house, whatever you want to call it. We call them camps in Louisiana, where I'm from. So we went there with my parents, and there was a Trail 50 sitting in the living room that hadn't run in forever. And I instantly went to Badger and my dad to get it running so I could ride it. So that was first time, shortly thereafter we got it running, and I was, learned how to ride on that little Trail 50.
Nice. Yeah. I started out on Trail 70, I think was my first one.
Yeah. There was one of those there too, a CT70, which when I was a kid, I thought was the ugliest bike in the world. Not having a traditional looking tank. I hated that thing.
Yeah, I hated it because we had that weird tank, that weird seat, and then like those really weird handlebars on them. The handlebars were really strange.
Yeah, that would they think they would fold down so you could put it in the back of the truck or something.
Yep, they did. Yep, but that's exactly.
Now I'd love to have one. Now, if I ever find one, I'll probably buy it just for the memories.
Yeah, and they're collectible now. People collect them things like that.
I know. Yeah, they've gotten kind of pricey.
Yeah. So the next one I have is, who was your biggest influence in regards to motorcycles?
My dad got me into motorcycles. So when my parents got divorced, my dad instantly bought a motorcycle. And, I rode thousands of miles on the back of that bike with him. And then as I got older, I got into drag racing, and, a buddy of mine who I worked for during my days in college at his shop, Dan Wagner. He's a kind of a big time in the pro mod motorcycle drag racing scene. Taught me a ton about motor building and machine work and stuff like that. So kind of people no one knows, but those are the people that really kind of set my foundation for motorcycling.
Right. Yeah, that's always good. That's the best thing to have, especially when you're dad and you can kind of share that passion with your dad and like that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So next one is going to be, when did you start professionally working on motorcycles?
So I guess my very first professional motorcycle job was working for my buddy Dan, um, which was, I don't know, 2001. I was in college and I worked, with him. Then I graduated college and got a real life job, which I hated. So in 2006, I got my shop, and that's when I really started making my living. So 18 years ago, uh, be 19 years this October.
Nice. Yeah, that's a big journey, and being able to do it as a job, that's saying something, because being able to run a business in these times and being able to survive it, do everything that doing that, is that's saying something. That means that you're
Yeah,
being
no, it's something.
successful. So,
It's definitely something, and I mean, sometimes we barely survive, but I don't know. I don't know how to quit anything. Even times when I probably should, I don't know. Once I'm into, I never can give up. I'm probably almost to a fault, but so we
right.
just keep plugging away, and somehow, some way, it always works out. It's like we'll have weeks, and it's like that's it, we're done. Nothing's ever coming in again. You know,
Yeah.
and then the next day 10 bikes come in, so it's you
Yep.
would
And
think after all this time I'd quit worrying, but I still don't.
then I'm sure you get those days, because like I said, I have them with cars. You get those days where you got so many projects going on, you wish somebody quit walking through the door.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
it's either, like, can't we just get two a day, like let's get
right.
two jobs a day and we'll get them in and out. No, we get 10 or nothing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's I guess the nature of it. I have buddies with other types of businesses, and they deal with the same stuff.
Yeah,
So
it
it's,
doesn't matter what you're doing. It's
feast or
it's an
famine.
economy based kind of thing. Doesn't matter what you do.
Yep, yeah.
So next one is, what was your first build and your favorite build that you've done?
So my very first build was a drag bike. It was a 1980 CB750 Honda dual overhead cam, and built a Pro Street bike. So back in those days, that was Pro Street was like it for me. I thought that was the greatest. I still love them really, but I thought that was so, long swing arms slammed on the ground. I built a 1220cc motor, which was like the biggest motor you could build with one of those Hondas. Performance machine, race wheels, and uh, GSXR front end and stuff. So uh, that was my first build. I mean, in my dad's garage when I was 17 years old. And my favorite build, I don't know, man. It's so hard to say. I've built so many bikes. Probably my bike I built for the Bikes, Brews, and Barbecues. It's a really super custom shovel head in a rigid frame with a 200 tire, and basically everything on the bike I made. Um, Custom Springer legs, handmade gas tank, um, handmade push rod covers, a lot of cast parts. I have a good friend of mine who's a jeweler, and so we cast a lot of parts in sterling silver, push rod collars, gas cap. I sand cast a headlight, and my neighbors at the time were a glass blowing studio, so we have a hand blown lens in that headlight. I mean, it just the amount of pieces we made for that bike. It's just something I'm super proud of, and that's probably my favorite. Probably maybe will always be. I'm not sure that I'll ever build another bike that nice.
Nice. That's awesome. Just being able to
Yeah.
put that much, have the talent to be able to knock that stuff out. I mean, I watched a video that you were just doing some, I think it was a timing cover or derby cover on the lathe for one of the
Yeah.
bikes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's just being able to hand make that stuff and have the talent to do that on top of it, not just purchase. You're not just buying parts off the shelf. You're making the stuff there too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think a lot of that came from the drag racing, and then in my early days. So I'm not only a Harley guy. I build all kinds of bikes. We build a lot of Honda choppers, old 750 choppers. I have an old Amen Savior like plunger frame 750 chopper. Um, and so a lot of those bikes, when I started doing that, there is no parts.
Right.
Nobody makes really much, many parts for these weird random Jap bikes. So when you start building choppers with those, you basically have to make everything. And so that's kind of what led me there. Um, in my younger days, I couldn't afford a Harley, so I would just chop whatever I could find.
Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna put his link out there in the description afterwards, like I do. Everybody go over, definitely check out his channel because he does some amazing stuff. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of builds going on. So we're gonna continue on with the interview. And the next one is, do you have like a trademark or a personal signature you do on your builds that ties them all to you, or not
In
really?
my early days, I would say I did. Now I think I build so much different stuff. I don't really anymore. All my builds usually are going to have at least a small handful of one-off handmade stuff. But as far as like where you look at a style of a bike and know I built it, I don't think I have that anymore. In the early days, a lot of my stuff was very drag bike looking, these real super long, stretched out, rigid frames, low handlebars, real super crouched, like leaned over position, like a race bike. But I've deviated from that so much over the years. The styles change. I don't necessarily love that style anymore. Like when I look at stuff that I built in 2008, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
they're cool, but I've progressed. My skills have improved.
Yeah.
I hope that in 18 more years, I look back at the stuff I'm building now and think it's beneath what I've done then, because I hope to always be getting better at what I'm doing. If
Yeah.
not, it's, I don't like stagnating. I like to try to learn a new skill every year. Something, like last year, I got into the sand casting, and I really want to get much more proficient at that. Um,
Nice.
this year, I'm hoping maybe to be able to get a CNC mill and start learning that. I have a plasma table CNC, so I have a little bit of CNC experience, but um, so yeah, I don't think anymore I have a style that pins me down because I've just built so many things over the last 18 years.
Gotcha. It's funny too because like the style comes back around. You speaking like the long drag, low handlebar drags. The diggers are making such a big comeback right now that it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's
Mhm.
like the long choppers, the skinny long choppers. I mean, 20 years ago, you didn't see that. It was all these giant 300 tire bikes and whatever. And now
Yeah,
the like 70s chopper has kind of made a real resurgence. So I don't
yeah,
know. I hope we don't get back to these big giant back wheel choppers, but we might one day.
right. Yeah, yeah. So I'll move on to the next one. Do you? I see. Do you do other builds? Do you do like bagger builds besides cars and things like that, or?
Yeah, we'll build whatever anybody wants to pay for.
Gotcha.
At the
That's
end of
it.
the
Yep.
day, I have what I personally like, but I'm running a business.
Right.
So if
Yeah. And you can't turn away money.
I built a frame for a lay frame bagger with a 36-inch front wheel on it for a guy 6 or 8 months. I mean, the thing looks like a giraffe. It is the most
Jeez.
ridiculous thing I've probably ever done, but you got the money, we got the time.
Right. Yeah. And that's like I like those bikes. They're works of art, and I like.
Yeah,
But it's not my style. Like I'm a chopper guy. I like the choppers
yeah.
and things like that. I like it. I know the work that goes into them and the craftsmanship.
Yeah, that's how I like baggers. I actually have a couple of custom baggers I built years and years ago. It's the bike I've owned the longest. I have a KZ 1000 police bike that was a California Highway Patrol, like a chips bike
Yeah. Yeah.
that I built into a custom bagger, and it has a
Nice.
23-inch wheel. The wheels, like a 23, maybe a 26, to me look good. Once you get bigger than that, they just start to look too unproportioned.
Yeah. They
So
look big wheelish.
on a road glide with a big fairing, a 26 to me looks really nice. Anything more than that, you start getting into these 30s, 34. They're just insane looking. Um, but
Right.
yeah, I appreciate any kind of any build if you build it nice. If you do it nice, I respect it. Even some of those crazy, I don't know if you've seen those bikes they build in Japan, the like Boskus with these crazy fairings, but some of that
Yeah.
stuff is really well done and has a ton of fab. And, I personally don't want it, but I think it's really cool that somebody takes the time to do it and do it well.
Yeah, the Thailand guys that put out some of them choppers, but they're riding their tanks
Oh,
above their head, like
yeah. Yeah. They
they're,
build a lot of
they're
cool,
just the way they look
super
is just
long
so awesome.
choppers. Yeah. And most of those are all like old 750 single cams and like KZ motors and stuff, which are, I'm because of the drag racing, I always lean back. If I see something like with an inline four Jap motor that's built cool, it gets me. I love them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's definitely sure. That's for sure. So, when you're building the bike, does your build kind of stick to the original plan, or is it start to finish, or does it kind of form itself as you go? Because when you start building them,
Yeah, I mean, they mostly kind of, I never get rigid on anything. So I always have a sort of a basic plan, on the stuff I'm building for myself. When I'm building for a customer, that's a completely different deal because it's usually agreed upon. And I don't, if I find something that I definitely want to change, I'll try to convince them. But on my own bikes, I'll have a general plan. And then sometimes what I do sucks. And I'm like, oh no, like I thought this was going to be really cool and it doesn't work. And I scrap it and come up with something else, it just, I never get married to an idea. So if I think it's great and it turns out not to be, I ditch it quick and, find something that is great because
right?
yeah, if you get too hemmed into these certain ideas, again, you can't learn, and I don't think you're going to build the best bike if you are too rigid in what you want.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, that's true because that's the way like all my builds seem like I have this great idea, like this is the way I'm going to do it, and then halfway through it, the bike looks completely different, and I've changed everything. I got a pile of steel sitting on the ground, like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
so.
even like when we did that 24-hour build, so that bike, I really had to design and really sort of nail down everything because we were trying to do the whole thing in 24 hours. And
Yeah,
even on that throughout the night, there was things I'm like, no, this is crap. And we ditched it and sent the guys across the street to the warehouse, try and dig up something else, go look for another fender because the fender that I
right.
thought I wanted just looked terrible. It didn't fit the wheel right. So they were over there
But
stripping parts off old projects, so
for
we had a fender to put on it, so.
for a 24-hour build though, that bike turned out real good. It was pretty impressive. I mean, it was
Yeah, I'm
start to
pretty
finish
proud
in
of that.
24
Just,
hours.
I mean, it's not the most custom, but there's still some cool, I made the wheels. I don't know if you watched all the stuff leading up to
Yeah,
it. Okay, yeah, so
yeah.
I made the
I didn't
wheels.
watch it. Look, I caught it like right in the middle of it, but then I went back and I watched like all the videos leading up to it, the
Oh,
whole
okay, cool.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was something
So,
I'd been wanting to do for a long time, and that was pretty cool. I was happy with how the bike turned out overall. That's another one that's on my list to get on the road this year and actually ride.
I definitely think you need to be a contestant for one of the biker build offs there that they've been talking about bringing back. I definitely think you should have a shoe in that because you did it in 24 hours. So
Yeah, we'll give it a go for sure.
some of these they're giving like 6 months and stuff. You did that in 24
Oh,
hours. So
geez, yeah, yeah. 6 months is nothing. Yeah, that's
yeah.
easy. I can do it by
So
myself in that time probably.
right. So next one is, so would you say the chopper crowd is different than the rest of the motorcycle community, and how do you think, in your own opinion, that is?
I mean, yeah, in a lot of ways, I think. Um, Generally speaking, I think the chopper crowd is a lot more built up of a lot more people who are builders, or at least either novice and or professional. A lot of home builder guys and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of the other like the weekend warrior Harley guys and whatever, it's just they like to ride and that's it. They can't change the spark plug on the bike. So I think when you get together with those people, the chopper guys have a respect more for the bike, and the building, which is what I'm into even more than the riding, where the other guys, they're more into, they want to ride to, the breakfast thing or the bar thing, so I think in that regard, you get a lot. To me, I fit in more with those guys because I want to talk about building the bike, not what trinket I got to bolt on it or, where we're going to ride. I don't hardly even care if I ride. It's,
Right. Yeah.
but I could sit and talk to you all day about building something. I could talk to you for 3 hours about building one stupid little part, probably. Because it's just that's what I love about the motorcycles is the building more than anything. And so I just the rider guys, they're all everybody generally is good people. Motorcycle people are good people generally. I find, you're broke down, guy's on a bike, he's going to stop and check on you. All that kind of stuff. So in that regard, I think everybody's sort of the same, but just I fit in more with the builder people.
Right. Yeah. Because and that, like, I've noticed, like at the shows and everything, that it's not about the trophies. It's more about the bikes and like the community of it. And it's always nice to win something, but when you go there and everybody starts talking about the bikes and you start talking about it and the friendships and the relationships that you build with the other builders, it makes it tight.
And a lot of those shows, man, they're just, they're so political. I tell people all the time, you want to win a show, you just got to enter the right show.
Right. Yep. And when you win, you're gonna lose friends when you win because people are gonna be mad.
Like I feel bad sometimes. Like we went to that Arcadia show after the day after the 24-hour, and a couple of my customers came and brought bikes I had built, but their bikes, and they didn't win anything, and both my bikes won. And I'd rather they win because I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I think I would have preferred for them to win and me not.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Like, my experience, like I told you earlier, was taking my son's first build around. That was nice to see him get the trophies and see him experience that. But for me, it's more about, talking to people like you, learning more about people in the industry and learning the industry.
Yeah. So
the next one is, what would you say is your damn man, I did this moment, like hey, I figured this out.
Man, I still haven't figured it out. I don't know if I ever will, probably, yeah. I've had moments pre-2000, like 2006, I got into business. 2009, especially in South Florida here, we had a drastic crash in the economy. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was like something like 40% of people lost their homes to foreclosure. It was ugly for people in business, especially people in a business like mine that is completely unnecessary. You know what I mean? If you're losing your house, you don't give a shit about your motorcycle.
Right.
So
yeah, exactly.
We rode that storm out. I moved to this tiny little building that flooded every time it rained. It was just a disaster. And so about 2011, business was starting to creep up again. And my neighbor in this crap building owns a ton of buildings in our area where I am. And he came and he said, hey, I just bought this building over here. It's 4,000 square feet, freestanding building, like my own parking lot, everything. Do you want to rent it? And I'm like, well, sure, I want to rent it, but I'm figuring there's no way. So the rent was $300 more a month than what I was paying. And at that time, I seriously thought about it for several days. Could I afford an extra $300? That's how bad business had been. And, so I bit the bullet and I said, screw it. I'm going to either make this work or I'll go out of business and whatever. And so when I moved into that building, that was a pretty good, I went from like a 1,800 square foot, hellhole to this 4,000 square foot building where we could, do anything I could think of,
right.
So that was a pretty good feeling after barely surviving 2009 and 2010. I kind of at that point had thought I made it, and looking back, I don't know. I guess I did in some ways and didn't in others, but it's
Right.
it's a good feeling to have made it work all this time. One way or another, I always seem to figure it out.
Good. And you're still going at it. That's what's good.
Yeah, the bikes is easy. The business stuff sometimes is what'll kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I know exactly what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
what is your favorite show experience of 2024
Ugh,
of
I don't
last
even
year?
know. I think the only show I went to in 2024 was that Arcadia show after we did the
Yeah.
24-hour build. Because the Bikes, Brews, and Barbecues was in 2023. And yeah, like I was telling you when we were talking before we got on, we're so far away from everything.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to get anywhere, once a year is kind of, for us, that's our goal is to try to get to one thing every year, really, because we're just so far away. And
Right.
the beginning of 2024, I went to West Virginia to bring a bike to those guys and help them get started on that charity build. So that was it was not a show, but that was our big trip for 2024. Plus, I got married in 2024 and went on a honeymoon. So that cut into my bike travel time also.
Right. Yeah. But the family part's pretty important too, though. That's gotta have the
Yeah,
family to
yeah,
keep it
no,
all going.
yeah, good times. So worked out
Yep.
well.
So next up, would you say the chopper scene is making a comeback, or has it always kind of been there and just separate?
I kind of think it has. I mean, I guess like when you say the chopper scene, I don't really consider the like big dog chopper craze era, the early
No.
2000s. That to me is more like the weekend warrior deal.
Yeah.
I think the internet has done a lot for chopper building because it's allowed so many people who didn't grow up with like you said your dad and your grandpa and me my dad and like if you didn't know anybody, if your dad was an accountant and was into playing golf but you love motorcycles and you didn't know anyone, how did you learn 30 years ago?
Right.
And
Yeah.
now, I mean, if you have any kind of mechanical aptitude, you can get on the internet and really teach yourself. And I mean, like I spend a lot of time. Like people DM me or email me. Like I'm happy to share my knowledge. That's one thing that worries me is I'm 44 and I'm like sort of the young guy. I don't see a lot of guys much younger than me, and so I wonder. Like I think it's booming now, but I wonder how long it'll continue.
I mean, that
Because
right there is part of the reason why I kind of do this, and I'm bringing my kids, and I even bring my grandkids around it because
yeah,
if we don't share our knowledge and our passion with the generations coming up,
yeah,
this is something that's gonna die off because they don't have the interest in that. The kids aren't like we
right.
were when we were growing up.
Yeah, like I mean, I would love. That's one thing I've been. I mean, for the last probably 10 years, trying to find a a kid 18, 20 years old to bring in and build into somebody I could turn the shop over to at some point.
Right.
Because I have a daughter, one daughter, she's 7. I mean, who knows what'll happen when she gets older, but she couldn't care less about motorcycles now. I mean,
Right.
I try and want to get a mini bike, you want to not, I mean, no interest at all.
Yeah. I've got one son, a son-in-law, 2 daughters. They're all somewhat into motorcycles, but my granddaughter, my 3-year-old granddaughter, the one that rides in the tank of my chopper, she's like
Yeah,
all into it. She'll steal the show at a chopper show. She'll walk up and start talking to the people like she knows what she's talking about.
that's cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, but so what is out of the motorcycles that you have? Because I know you said you had quite a few of them. But what's your favorite one to get out and ride? Because I know you don't ride a lot. So like,
Yeah, I
what's your
don't ride very much. I have a Victory cross country. That's like my regular bike if I want to like take my wife or something and ride. And it's very mildly customized. Um, other than I have a 83 FLH that's got a 100-inch Evo motor in it, which is pretty cool. That's probably the most I've ridden. It's kind of I don't know. It's like FL, long FL fenders, fat bobs, kind of stripped down, super low. Um, Baby apes. Still got a swing arm and shocks, not a rigid frame. Uh, that bike I ride probably more than anything else when I ride, except if I'm riding the Victory. And none of the rest of my bikes run because they all need batteries and carburetors cleaned. And I have a little V-Star 650 bobber, which is actually like some of these little Honda bobbers are so fun to ride. They're like, it's like riding a dirt bike. You know what I mean? The bike weighs nothing. They don't have tons of power, but they get up and go, like 0 to 60 real quick. So I just got my V-Star. That was like on New Year's Day. I decided I'm going to get all my bikes running this year, try and do one a month. So that was the easiest one to get out. So I got that running. I've been riding that to lunch a little bit here last few weeks. And it's super fun to ride. I mean, you can't really go very far on it because it's got no power. And I'm a big bastard. I weigh 280. So,
Gotcha.
But it's good to like zip downtown to go eat lunch and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So what, the last one I got is, what events might someone see you at this year? Like, what are your plans
Well,
coming
we're going
up?
to be at Cycle Showcase for sure. I possibly am going to be at Willie's in Daytona. And if I'm not there, there's going to be people there with bikes I built for sure. I don't know. Maybe try and catch something at the end of the year. I'm not even sure what's going on. Maybe we'll try to catch something October, November. It's a real slight chance I might go to Fuel, but if I do, I'll probably just go in my car because I'm going to have to like blast up there in a day and then blast back because I just don't have the time to pull a trailer, and it adds so much time to the trip.
Right.
So for sure, we're going to be at Cycle Showcase in St. Louis. That's definite. The trip is booked. I guess it's coming up like in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yep,
So that one for sure. We're going to have some bikes at Willie's. We're going to have some bikes at some shows out in Sturgis. I will not be there, but my painter who works for me is going, and he's bringing a bunch of the bikes we do. So that's the ones for sure I know. And if we can come up with something maybe in October or November towards the end of the year, maybe we'll try and make something happen on that. I don't know what's going on that late in the year.
Right. So that's all the questions I had. If you want to talk about if you had anything more you want to say or any closing things, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course, man. It's been fun. Happy to do it. I don't have a whole lot extra to add. Definitely everybody check out our YouTube. We're constantly posting stuff on there. Whenever we get something interesting, try to always do at least one long form video every week. We put tons of shorts up, just silly stuff usually that we're doing throughout the week. But I always try to post at least one long form generally on Saturdays. And that's generally like my personal project stuff that I'm working on. Coming up down the pike is Shovelhead. It's a rigid frame, like a Paco rigid frame that I bought as a complete bike that was just a total wreck. And so we're slowly redoing that. Probably going to put an Evo 5-speed in there and belt drive and do a lot of our general custom little one-off pieces. I got some cool parts too that I've been collecting over the years. Some Boyd Coddington narrow glide triple trees and a couple kind of rare parts that are cool I've been waiting to use. But it's not going to be anything too crazy, just kind of basic shovelhead bobber with our little bit of custom touches. So that's going to be, once we get back from Cycle Showcase, that's going to be our kind of Saturday videos probably for the next, I don't know, however many months it takes us to get that done.
Nice. Yeah. So just at the end of it, one of the guys kind of touched in the side chat, kind of asked a question that,
Yeah.
He says, is it necessary to go to Sturgis if you're a builder? That's kind of one of those things me and you were talking about before too.
I don't know. I mean, It's not necessary to me. I've never been, and people try to get me to go every year, and I think I would go to Sturgis when the rally was not going on to ride. I hear it's
Yeah.
amazingly beautiful out there. I just
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, am I going to go out there and pick up business? I really don't think so. And so I'm kind of like I don't think it's necessary. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the missing piece. I've never been to Sturgis, but I
Right.
would love to go to Sturgis. I'd probably move to South Dakota if my wife didn't hate the cold. It looks
Right.
amazing. I've never been there, but I mean, it looks like an amazing place. So I'll probably go one day, maybe. One day they'll wear me down and I'll go.
Yeah. So, well, that is all I have. I'm gonna start wrapping it up. I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna share all your
Absolutely.
links and watch. I'll kind of trim the fat on this a little bit. I'll put a nice little video out, and I'm gonna stream it to all the stuff and make sure and tag you in it, and I'll put
Yeah,
your links in
definitely.
it
We'll
for
share
all
it on
your
all our
social
stuff.
media and everything. So
Yeah,
to get
absolutely, man. I
try to get
appreciate
some
it very
stuff out.
much. Good talking
All
to
right.
you, and holler if you need anything.
All right, I'll do that. You do the same. So I
Alrighty,
save
man.
my contact information, and maybe I'll see you in St. Louis. If not, hopefully I can see you somewhere along the way. Maybe
Yeah,
a
if you
fuel.
make it out for sure, come say hi.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too. All right, please make sure and check out his stuff, content if you like it, and do all the fun stuff like subscribe and follow. Thank you for coming, and thanks for having him come on the show. I really appreciated that. It was a lot of fun.
Sweepers, sweepers.